Hello everyone, this is Glenda and welcome back to Creative Grandma. Today is part 2 of our Sunshine and Rainbow Beach Tote. Now this video is part 2, so I will have the link to part 1 in my description box. So if you didn't see the first part and you wanted to make this tote, check out that link. Just scroll down until you find the description box and that link will be there for you. This bag is made using Beautiful Ice Yarns Fireworks for this beautiful multicolor, and then I used the Lorena worsted for the accent color. In part 1, we worked from the bottom of the bag up until we did this blue edging right here. So in part 2 today, we're going to add our strap right here. We're going to put this trim work on. We're going to make our flap. We're going to trim around the flap. We're going to trim around the strap, and then we're going to add our button, and then your bag is going to be finished. So I'll be right back, and we're going to jump right in, start part 2, and get our bag finished. This is where we ended on round 26. We joined our round, and now we're going to start our strap. We're going to slip stitch into the second half double crochet of this 3 half double crochet group. We're going to insert our hook into that second half double crochet of that 3 double crochet group, and we're going to slip stitch. Yarn over the hook, pull it through that stitch, and pull it through the loop on your hook. We are going to work a half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet into this same stitch. Now with this pattern, we do not chain for the first stitch. We're just going to automatically do that half double crochet without any chains to start the row. You're going to yarn over the hook, you're going to insert it into that same half double crochet, and you're going to work a half double crochet. You're going to chain 1, you're going to insert your hook into that same half double crochet and work a half double crochet. So your half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet creates your V-stitch. We're going to do that 2 more times. So you're skipping the next 2 stitches, yarn over the hook, insert into that center half double crochet of that 3 half double crochet group, work a half double crochet. You're going to chain 1, yarn over, insert back into that same stitch, and work a half double crochet. Your V-stitch is made. We're going to do that 1 more time. We're going to yarn over the hook. You're going to skip the next 2 stitches, insert your hook into that next stitch, which is the center half double crochet of that next 3 half double crochet group. Insert your hook and work a half double crochet. You're going to chain 1, yarn over the hook, insert back into that same stitch, and work a half double crochet. Your half double crochet V-stitch is made, and so far you should have a total of 3. 1, 2, and 3. That is the end of our row, and this is the beginning of our strap. So now we're just going to turn our work. So this row you'll be working on the wrong side. To start row 2, we're going to insert into that beginning chain 1 space of this beginning V-stitch. Insert your hook right into the center of that V-stitch in the chain 1 space and slip stitch. Yarn over the hook, pull it through that space, and pull it through the loop on your hook. Again, with this pattern on our strap, we do not chain when we start the row. We're just going to work our stitches. You're going to work a half double crochet, a chain 1, and a half double crochet in each chain 1 space of the 3 V-stitches across. So let's begin. Yarn over the hook, insert back into that beginning chain 1 space of that first V-stitch, work a half double crochet, chain 1, yarn over the hook, insert back into that same chain 1 space, and work a half double crochet. Your first V-stitch is made. yarn over the hook. You're going to skip those next 2 half double crochet. You're going to insert your hook into the chain 1 space of that next V-stitch and work a half double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, insert back into that same space and work a half double crochet. Your V-stitch is finished. We need to do it one more time into this last V-stitch, yarn over the hook, skip those next 2 stitches, insert your hook into the chain 1 space of that next V-stitch and work a half double crochet. You're going to chain 1, yarn over, insert into that same chain 1 space and work your half double crochet. Your V-stitch is finished and you should have a total of 3 V-stitches across. That is the end of row 2. So now what you're going to do is you're going to click back on the video and you're going to repeat row 2 until you have a total of 30 rows from the start of this first row until you get to the end of row 30. So you will repeat row 2 a total of 28 more times. Now, when you get to the end of row 30, what you do is you pull the strap up right to the center of your shoulder, hold the bag, see if that's long enough to suit you. You may have a taller body frame, you may have a shorter body frame. So if you want to add more rows and make your strap longer, then you can just repeat row 2 until you get the total amount of rows that you feel where the purse positions on your hip. The other thing is, whatever rows you add, you need to write them down, because if you do, say, 30 rows, then you need to do 30 rows on the other side. If you do a total of 40 rows, then you have to match that up with the other side and add those additional rows to your work to make your strap even. So go ahead and repeat row 2 28 more times until you get to a total of 30 rows or your desired length for your first half of your strap. I'll meet you at the end of row 30 and we'll continue on. I'm over at the end of row 30 of our strap. So what you want to do is go back down to the top of your bag and count your rows and just make sure you have 30 rows or however many rows you want. This should be touching the center of the top of your shoulder. So you could just hold your bag up to your shoulder and have this right at the center and see where the bag lays to determine if you want more or less rows. So now we're just going to fasten off our work. I chain 2, 1, 2. I pull my hook up and pull that yarn out. Grab your yarn, take your 2 fingers, just pull it down and it creates a nice secure knot. So now we're getting ready to start our second half of our strap. So I'll be right back and I'll show you how to start your other half of your strap. I'm back and we're getting ready to start our second strap. So what I'm doing is I'm tying my yarn around my hook with a double knot, and this will help secure my work when I start that second strap. So attach your yarn to your hook and then we're going back to our bag. This is where we started our first strap and we're working in that center double crochet of these 3 double crochet groups. So now what we want to do is go over until we find our next starting point to start our other half of our strap. We're going to skip the next 9 sets of 3 half double crochet. So you already worked in this one, so we're going to count across 9 more 3 half double crochet groups. So count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. We're going to join our yarn into the center half double crochet of that 3 half double crochet group of the 10th group of 3. You're going to insert your hook into that center stitch and we're going to slip stitch. Yarn over the hook, pull it through that stitch and pull it through the loop on your hook. This secures your yarn ends and your bag won't rip out. we're going to begin with a half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet into the same space. Yarn over the hook, insert back into that center half double crochet, work your half double crochet. You're going to chain 1, yarn over the hook, insert back into that same stitch, and work your second half double crochet. Your half double crochet V-stitch is made. We're going to work 1 half double crochet V-stitch in the center of the next 2 groups of 3 half double crochets. So yarn over the hook, you're going to skip the next 2 half double crochet, insert into the next stitch, which is the center stitch of that next 3 half double crochet group, and work a half double crochet, chain 1, yarn over the hook, insert back into that same stitch, and work your second half double crochet. Your V-stitch is made. We need to do that again. You're going to yarn over the hook, you're going to skip the next 2 half double crochet, insert into the center half double crochet of that next 3 half double crochet group, work a half double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, insert into that same stitch, and work a half double crochet. Row 1 is finished. I'm going to show you how to do row 2. It's the same as the other side. We're going to turn our work, and we do not chain when we turn our work and start the first stitch. You're going to insert your hook into that first chain 1 space and slip stitch. Yarn over the hook, pull it through that chain 1 space, and pull it through the loop on your hook. You're going to yarn over, insert back into that chain 1 space, work your half double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, insert back into that same chain 1 space, and work your half double crochet. Your first V-stitch is made. A half double crochet, a chain 1, and a half double crochet. So we're going to work that across the next 2 V-stitches. Yarn over the hook, insert into the next chain 1 space of the next V-stitch, work a half double crochet, chain 1, yarn over the hook, insert into that same chain 1 space, and work a half double crochet. Your V-stitch is finished. Yarn over the hook, insert into the next chain 1 space of that last V-stitch, work a half double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, insert into that same last chain 1 space of that last V-stitch, and work a half double crochet. You should have a total of 3 half double crochet V-stitches across your row. So go ahead and go back, repeat row 2 for either a total of 30 rows as in the instructions, or to whatever length you made that first half of the strap. If you shortened your strap or lengthened your strap, you need to adjust this side to match the first side that you made. So go ahead, repeat row 2, and I'll meet you at the end of row 30. I'm over at the end of row 30 on our second half of our strap. So make sure when you count your rows, you start at the first row right above the edge of your bag, count up, make sure that whatever you have on one side matches the amount of rows you have on the other side. The other thing is when you're making your bag, you have your straps on both sides. So you should have a total of 9 unworked sets of 3 half double crochet across the top of your bag in the front and across the back of your bag in the back between your straps. That's how you tell your bag is even. So just make sure you have 9 unworked sets of 3 half double crochet, and then you have your strap, then you have 9 sets of 3 half double crochet around the back, and then you have your strap. So let's continue with our strap. Now, when you get the second half of your strap made, you're going to leave a longer length. So leave a nice long length. It's better to have too much yarn than not enough. Go ahead and fasten off your work, leaving that longer length for sewing our strap together. I'm just going to bring my strap up. I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2. I'm going to pull all that yarn out, grab my yarn, take my fingers, pull down, and it creates that knot. So I'm going to zoom up my camera, and then we're going to sew our strap together. You're going to want to take your bag and make sure your strap is not twisted. Let me zoom out just a little. So this is the right side of the bag. You want to make sure you don't have the wrong side facing. Your strap is going up, and this is the right side of your strap. Grab your other strap. Make sure that the right side is facing. You're going to butt those two straps together. I'm going to grab my yarn needle. I probably should have threaded my yarn in my needle first. Go ahead and take that long length, thread it onto your yarn needle, butt those right sides together. Now what I do is, since the right sides are together, then I just fold this strap over because I want to sew on the wrong side of my work. So I'm coming up to the top corner. My right sides are butted together, but I flipped it over and I'm sewing on the wrong side. So I hope you can see how I did that. My strap is straight. This is what it's going to look like after it's sewed together. So that's right side touching right side, and then flip that top strap over so the right sides are together on the inside, but the wrong sides are together on the out. So my yarn is in front of my work. I'm just going underneath both loops of the stitch in the back, and I'm bringing it through both loops of the stitch in the front, and I'm just going to sew across my strap. I'm going to go back into that first stitch and just secure it. And then I'm just going to work my way across my strap. I'm getting over to my last stitch. I'm going into the last stitch. I'm going back into the last stitch or the top. I'm pulling through that stitch, and before I pull that all the way through, I'm going to leave a loop. I'm taking my hook and I'm going to go right through that loop and then pull my yarn down. Now, because I have an end here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tie these ends together. I'm just using a double knot. I'm going to fasten off my work, and then I'm going to take my yarn out of my yarn needle. I'm going to re-thread it on these two pieces of yarn that's left from sewing my strap together. When you turn your work over, you can see that it just blends nicely. Going to flip back over on the wrong side, and I'm going to take my yarn needle, and we're just going to work this end right through the stitches. I go through several stitches, and I'm just going to work across and down through my stitches and make sure this end is nice and secure. So go ahead and weave it down through some stitches, and then you want to bring it back up through some and over, just so you're going in to weave those ends in to keep them nice and secure. Going to fasten off my work, fasten off that end where I weaved it in. I'm going to repeat that to the other end, and I'm going to weave it in on the other side. So this is the wrong side of your work, and when you flip it over, that's the right side of your work. So I'm going to weave in my ends, and I'll be right back, and then we're going to start the border of working around our strap, because if you leave it like this, that will really stretch when you get weight in your bag. When you put any amount of weight in the bag and this is hanging on your shoulder, it's going to really stretch, and we don't want that. So what we're going to do next is we're going to put a border, and we're going to be working in these end stitches of each row. And what happens then is it's not allowed to stretch as much, and it holds that shape pretty firm. So if you load your bag with your drinks and your swimming suit or your towel or a book, it will really help hold that shape, and it won't really stretch. So I'll be right back, and then we'll get that border started. I'm back, and I'm getting ready to start our border on our strap. So what you want to do is you're going to tie your yarn around your hook. Now I just tied a double knot, and this is going to help me secure when I join my yarn to the bag. Now I like to leave a little bit longer length, because when I'm all finished, I like to come back and weave these ends in, and it's really helpful to have a nicer, longer length. If you only have a short length like that, then it's hard to get your yarn needle on there to weave that end in. So just leave a little bit larger amount. That's probably about 4 to 5 inches there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our bag. And it doesn't matter what strap you start with, just go to your bag to where you have the top of your bag and then the strap is starting. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go down into the right hand bottom of the strap. So we're going over to this side of the strap, right on the bottom of that first row. So if you look at your work, you can see that this row is the top of the bag, and this row is the first row of our strap, and this is where we're going to join our yarn. So I'm just going to turn my bag slightly so I can work up the side of my strap. You're going to insert your hook. Again, this is the top border of the bag, and this is the first row end stitch. You're just going to go right into that chain 1 space of that first V-stitch, and we're going to insert our hook, and we're working around these posts of these half double crochet stitches, and we're going to be doing that up the side of our strap. Insert your hook in the chain 1 space of that first half double crochet row end stitch, and you're just going to pull that new color through. My end's getting in my way. Yarn over the hook, pull it through that space, and pull it through the loop on your hook. We're going to begin this round, and we're going to chain 1. You're going to insert your hook back into that same chain 1 space and work a single crochet. We're going to work 1 single crochet in each row end stitch until we get back to the top of the bag. Insert into the next chain 1 space of the next row end stitch. You're going right into the chain 1 space, and we're working around that end stitch. Insert your hook and work a single crochet. Insert your hook into the chain 1 space of that next V-stitch, and we're working around the end stitch. Insert into that chain 1 space, work a single crochet around that ending half double crochet stitch. We're just going to repeat that in the manner all the way around our strap in the row end stitches until we get to the other side. And when we get over to the other side, we're going to stop when we work into that last row end stitch right before the top of the bag. So let's continue on. Insert your hook into the next chain 1 space of the next row end stitch. In that V-stitch, work a single crochet. Insert your hook into the next row end stitch in that chain 1 space of that ending V-stitch, and work a single crochet around the post of that half double crochet. Insert your hook into the next chain 1 space of that next row and V-stitch, work a single crochet. I'll show you one more time. Insert your hook into the next row end stitch in the chain 1 space of that last V-stitch, and work a single crochet around that ending half double crochet. Continue working around until you get to the last row of the strap right before the top of the bag, and I'll meet you there. I'm back. I'm not all the way around. I'm halfway around. This is what your work should look like. You can see those single crochet stitches worked in those end row end stitches, and it leaves just a nice look to your work. Now I'm up to that joining seam where we joined. So when you get to this joining seam, you're going to skip the joining seam and you're going to go right into the chain one space, which might be a little tight from sewing. Insert your hook into that chain one space of that next row and stitch, and again it'll be a little tight because you sewed in, but follow those rows up. This is one row, and then there's that row right here that you can see where you sewed, and begin again with your single crochet and then go right into the next chain one space of that next row end stitch and work a single crochet. Just keep going in those chain one spaces right on the edge of your work in each row. Work a single crochet, and then I will meet you right where you worked your last row. We're going to keep working around, and when you get to that last row, sorry, I'm moving my work around, you will stop here in this last row with your last single crochet, and then I'll meet you here and we'll pick up and work around the rest of the bag. I'm over at the end of the strap. I worked from one end of the strap over to the next end of the strap, and if you look at my work, let me turn it the way I'm working, we worked our single crochet in each row end stitch around that strap, and my last single crochet is here in that first row above the top of the bag. So when you're looking at your work, you just work down the strap. This was the last row, and then this is the top of the bag. So now we already worked in that row end stitch, so we're going to go over to this first half double crochet that is unworked. So look at your work. This stitch has a stitch in it, and you're going to jump right into that next stitch on the top of the bag. Insert your hook and work a single crochet. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to work one single crochet in each stitch across to where we started. So go ahead and work one single crochet in each half double crochet until you get to the beginning of the strap where we started, and I'll meet you there. I'm around my bag. I worked across the top edge of the bag, and now I'm back over to where we started working up the strap in that first row end stitch. So let me turn my work a little bit so you can see. It's a little hard to see because it's all blue, but right here is where we made that first single crochet stitch. Right here. So what we're going to do now is, you can see I worked in each stitch across my work, and now we're going to go up and we're going to join. So when you look at your work, you should make sure you have your last single crochet in the top of that last half double crochet going across the top of your bag, and then you see your strap. Now this is my joining loop, so we want to go up into this first single crochet here. So don't let that joining loop fool you. Just pull that out of the way, insert your hook into that first single crochet stitch, grab your yarn, tighten that up a little bit. I got a little loose, and slip stitch. Yarn over the hook, pull it through that first single crochet, and pull it through the loop on your hook. Now I'm going to fasten off, and remember, leave a little bit longer length so you can get that needle in there and weave those ends in, because it's so much nicer when you have more yarn on that needle to maneuver it around and your yarn isn't coming off. So that is round one of the border. I'll be weaving this in on the back, and then you won't see that. So you're going to take your bag. You already worked around this side, so just take your bag. You're going to come back over to the opposite side of the strap that's unworked, and you're going right into that bottom right hand corner. Let me zoom up just a little bit more. You're going to repeat what you did on the other side of the strap, and you're going to come over in the bottom right hand corner. So if you click back on the video and start exactly as we did the other side, you're going to join your yarn into this first row end stitch. You're going to insert into that chain 1 space. You're going to join your yarn, and then you're going to work 1 single crochet in each chain 1 space, working that single crochet around that end half double crochet. You're going to work around each row end stitch until you get to the other side of the bag, and then you're going to work 1 single crochet in each unworked half double crochet around the other side of the bag until you come to the beginning where you started. So I'm going to go ahead, join my yarn, work my stitches around this opposite side of my strap and bag, and I'll meet you at the end. I'm going to fasten off, and I'm going to have mine all finished, and then we'll move on to making our flap. So just click back on that video, repeat what we did on the other side of the strap around the bag, and I'll meet you when I get my strap border finished. I'm back, and I have my border around both sides of my strap, and what you did was you just worked that single crochet right around your strap and right around the bag. You just worked in a big circle and put those single crochet on your strap and the top of the bag to give it the edging, and then you repeated that to the other side. So now we're going to make our flap. So what you want to do is you want to take your bag. It doesn't matter which side. You can take this side or the next side. Now I already marked my stitches, so this is where we're going to work our flap, right into the center of the bag. So what you want to do is take your bag. So when you look at your bag, you will notice that we skipped 9 sets of 3 half double crochet in between our strap. So when you look at your strap, here's that 1 set of 3 half double crochet, and then over here starts the start of our 9. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So what you want to do is we want to find the center 9 single crochet to work our flap. So what you do is just go down 2 rows below, and you're going to say, this is my first, second, and third set. You're going to come up and mark the very next stitch. So when you get to that 4th set of 3 half double crochet, follow that first stitch of that 4th set up to that top single crochet and mark that stitch. Count over 9 stitches, counting with the stitch you marked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then mark that 9th stitch. And when you look at your work, you'll notice that that is the center 3 sets of 3 half double crochet of the 9. So just get your center 9 stitches marked, and I'll be back and we'll start the flap. To begin, I tied my yarn around my hook with a double knot. Now I'm going to go up and insert my hook into the first stitch that I have marked on the right side of my work. I'm going to insert my hook, and I'm just going to leave my stitch marker right in that stitch, and I'm going to pull my new color through the stitch, and I'm also going to pull it through the loop on my hook. I'm going to tighten that up. We're going to start by chaining 1. We're going to insert our hook back into that same first stitch that we joined our yarn and work a single crochet. We're going to work 1 single crochet in each of the next 8 single crochet over to and including that marked stitch. So let's work them together. Insert your hook into the next stitch and work a single crochet. That's 1. Insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet. That's 2. Insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet. That's 3. Insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet. That's 4. Insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet. That's 5. Insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet. That's 6. insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet, that's 7. You'll see that you're over to your stitch that has the stitch marker. Insert into that next stitch with the stitch marker and work your single crochet. So total, you should have a total of 9 single crochet in your first row. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 9. You're going to turn your work, and now we're ready to start row 2. We're going to begin with a chain 1. You're going to skip the chain 1. You're going to insert your hook into that very first stitch and work a single crochet. We're going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch across, and when we get to the end of the row, we will have 9 single crochet. So insert your hook into the next stitch, work a single crochet, continue working 1 single crochet in each stitch across until we get to that last stitch. So let me just keep working across the row with you. Insert into the next stitch and work a single crochet. Count your stitches: 2, 4, 6, 8, and 9. Row 2 is finished. So now what you're going to do is you're going to repeat row 2 for rows 3 through 5. So go ahead and click back on the video. You're going to turn your work, you're going to chain 1, you're going to single crochet in each stitch across. You'll have a total of 9 single crochet stitches. Go ahead and repeat row 2 3 more times, and I will meet you at the end of row 5. I'm over at the end of row 5, and you just have a basic 5 rows of single crochet for a total of 9 single crochet in each row. So now we're going to begin row 6. For row 6, we're going to begin with the chain 1. We're going to turn our work. We're going to begin by single crocheting 2 together. We're going to skip that beginning chain 1. You're going to insert your hook into that very first single crochet, yarn over, and pull through the stitch. You're going to leave that loop on your hook, and you now have 2 loops on your hook. Insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through that stitch, and you're going to leave that loop on your hook. You now have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. We just decreased by 1 single crochet. We're going to work 1 single crochet in each of the next 5 single crochet across. Insert into your next stitch and work a single crochet. That's 1. Insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet. That's 2. Insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet. That's 3. Insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet. That's 4. Insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet, and that's 5. We're going to end the row by single crocheting 2 together and decreasing by 1 stitch. Insert into the next stitch, yarn over, and pull through. You're going to leave that loop on your hook. You now have 2 loops. Insert your hook into the last single crochet across, yarn over, and pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. We just decreased by 1 single crochet. You should have a total of 7 single crochet for this row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we're going to begin row 7. We're going to begin with a chain 1. Yarn over and pull through. You're going to turn your work. We're going to begin by single crocheting 2 together and decreasing 1 stitch. We're going to skip this chain 1 space, insert your hook into that first stitch, yarn over, and pull through that stitch. You have 2 loops on your hook. Insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, and pull through that stitch. You have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops. You just decreased by 1 stitch. We're going to work 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. Insert your hook into the next stitch and work a single crochet. That's 1. Insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet. That's 2. Insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet, and that's 3. We're going to end our row by single crocheting 2 together and decreasing by 1 stitch. Insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through. You have 2 loops on your hook. Insert your hook into the last stitch, yarn over and pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. At the end of row 7, you should have a total of 5 single crochet stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to go ahead and start row 8, which is our last row of our flap. We're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn your work. We're going to skip this chain 1 and we're going to begin our row by single crocheting 2 together. Skip that beginning chain 1, insert your hook into that first stitch, yarn over and pull through that stitch. You have 2 loops on your hook. Insert your hook into that next stitch, yarn over and pull through that stitch. You have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. We just decreased by 1 stitch. Now we're going to make our button loop. We're going to slip stitch into this next stitch, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through that stitch, and pull through the loop on your hook. We're going to chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We're going to slip stitch into the same stitch that we just slip stitched. Insert your hook into that same stitch, yarn over, pull through that stitch, and pull through the loop on your hook. We just made our buttonhole loop. Now we're going to end the row by single crocheting 2 together. Insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through that stitch. You have 2 loops on your hook. Insert your hook into the last stitch, yarn over and pull through that stitch. You have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. We just decreased by 1 stitch. That is the end of row 8, and now we're going to fasten off. So make sure you leave a little bit longer length so you have plenty of room to thread that onto your yarn needle. I chain 2, 1, 2, pull your hook up, pull that yarn out, grab that yarn, take your fingers, pull down, and it forms a secure knot. I'm going to go ahead and weave in my ends. So when I come back, we're going to do our strap edging. That's that decorative little edging here that we put on our bag, and I'll be right back and we'll get that started. So our flap is finished. And now what we're going to do is our final edging. To begin, I went back and you're going to attach your rainbow color or whatever main color you used for your bag. So attach your yarn. And then we're going to take our bag and we're going to turn it. And we want the right side facing. And we're going to join in the stitch. Now this is what the instructions say. So I'm going to try to read it exactly as the instructions state. You're going to join your main color, color A, in the joining stitch of the strap border. Well, the strap border was this border here, and this is where we joined. You can see where you joined that round together when you were finished. So I already tied my yarn around my hook, and again, I left about a 4 to 5 inch length, and that gives me enough yarn to work with to weave in that end. Again, here is your bag. Here is your flap on the top, and this is the right side facing. You're just going to come over and you're going to follow the flap right over to the corner, and right here is our joining stitch where we started that round 1 of our strap border. You're just going to insert your hook into that same stitch, You're going to yarn over, pull that new color through that stitch, and pull it through the loop on your hook. Now I'm just going to grab that end and pull it back out of my way. And now we're going to begin our round. This is the start of your repeat. You're going to chain 1. You're going to insert your hook into the top of the next stitch, and you're going to slip stitch. Yarn over, pull through that stitch, and pull through the loop on your hook. That is the end of your repeat. Very, very simple repeat. All we're doing is a chain 1 and then slip stitch into the next stitch. So let me work a few stitches with you. You're going to chain 1, insert your hook into the next stitch, and slip stitch. Yarn over the hook, pull it through that stitch, and pull it through the loop on your hook. You're going to chain 1, insert your hook into the top of the next stitch, and slip stitch. Yarn over the hook, pull it through the stitch, and pull it through the loop on the hook. And this is creating that nice little edging on your border. So let me show you one more time. You're going to chain 1, insert into the next stitch, and slip stitch. Yarn over the hook, pull it through that stitch, and pull it through the loop on your hook. So go ahead and repeat that around. You're going to chain 1 and slip stitch into the next stitch. So you're going to repeat this edging around your strap, all the way around your strap, and then you're going to come around the front of the purse, and then I want you to stop here when you get to your flap. Do not work in the flap. I'll come back and walk you step by step around the flap. So for now, you're going to chain 1, slip stitch into the next stitch, chain 1, slip stitch into the next stitch, and you're going to work that right around the edge of the strap and around the top front half of the purse, and you're going to stop right here when you get to this corner of your flap. So go ahead and repeat that, and I'll be back and meet you at the bottom of your flap. We worked around the edging of our strap, we worked down the whole entire length of our strap, and then we worked across the top of the bag. And now I'm over at the bottom of our flap. So I hope you can see that okay. This side is still unworked. So this is the side we started. You should have worked a chain 1 slip stitch around that edge. And let me zoom up, and we're going to work around the flap now. So to work around the flap, we're going to work up the row end stitches of the side of the flap, and we're just going to work the same pattern. We're going to skip this first row. So when you're looking at your work, this is where you worked your last slip stitch in that last single crochet stitch before the flap. This is your first row. You can see your rows by the stitches. So we're going to skip this first row, and we're going to start in the next row. So chain 1, skip that first row end stitch, insert into the next row end stitch, and slip stitch. Yarn over the hook, pull it through that stitch, and pull it through the loop on your hook. You're going to chain 1, insert into the next row end stitch, and slip stitch. Yarn over the hook, pull it through that stitch, and pull it through the loop on your hook. You're going to chain 1, insert into the next row end stitch, and slip stitch. Chain 1, insert into the next row end stitch, and slip stitch. Chain 1, insert into the next row end stitch, and slip stitch. Now we're going to work in the last row end stitch. So chain 1, you're going to come up and insert, and we're going to skip this part here, and we're going to jump over here right at the base of that chain 8 loop. So go clear over here. Let me pull this apart right here, because we decreased. It's a pretty fat stitch. So just bring your hook over on the other side of that big fat stitch, insert your hook, and slip stitch. You're going to chain 1, and you're going to slip stitch into the center of that chain 8 space. We're going to be working around this chain 8 space, and we're going to do that 6 times. So yarn over the hook, pull it through that space, and pull it through the loop on your hook. That is our first of the 6. You're going to chain 1, insert back into that chain 8 loop, and slip stitch. That's 2, chain 1, insert into that same chain 8 loop, and slip stitch. That's 3, chain 1, insert back into that chain 8 loop, and slip stitch. That's 4, chain 1, insert back into that chain 8 loop, work a slip stitch. That's 5, chain 1, insert back into that chain 8 loop, and slip stitch. And that is 6. Now we're going to work down the opposite side of our flap. So we're going to begin with the chain 1. You're going to insert your hook underneath the top 2 strands of that last stitch. So when you turn your work, you can see that last stitch. Just insert your hook right into that space and slip stitch. You're going to chain 1, insert your hook into the row end stitch of the next row, and we decrease so it's a wide stitch. Just go on the other side of that stitch, insert your hook, and slip stitch. You're going to chain 1, insert into the next row end stitch, and slip stitch. Chain 1, insert your hook into the next row end stitch, and slip stitch. You're going to chain 1, insert into the next row end stitch, and slip stitch. And we're just working down, and we're going to stop 1 row above the last row of that flap. So chain 1, insert into the next row end stitch, and slip stitch. We have 2 rows to go. You can see we have 2 rows remaining. So chain 1, insert into the row end stitch of that next row, and slip stitch. We're over to our last row, and we're going to skip this last row end stitch. You're going to chain 1, you're going to skip that last row end stitch, you're going to skip the stitch below it because it's already worked in, and you're going to insert your hook into that first single crochet that is unworked with no stitches in it. Insert your hook into that stitch and slip stitch. Now we're just going to repeat that pattern across until we get to where we started. So let me work with you. I'm going to chain 1, slip stitch into the next stitch. You're going to chain 1, slip stitch into the next stitch, chain 1, slip stitch into the next stitch. You're going to chain 1, slip stitch into the next stitch. We have a few more stitches to go. Chain 1, slip stitch into the next stitch, chain 1, slip stitch into the next stitch, and we're just going to keep working until we get to that first stitch. So we have 2 stitches to go. Chain 1, slip stitch into the next stitch, chain 1, slip stitch into the last stitch around. So now we're going to join. So to end this round, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to join with a slip stitch into the same stitch that we joined our beginning strand of yarn. So insert into that same space, yarn over the hook, pull it through that space, and pull it through the loop on your hook. So this round is finished working around the flap. Again, fasten off, leaving a nice long length. I would leave at least 6 inches or more, and that gives you plenty of yarn to maneuver and weave in those ends. We just worked this beautiful edging. Excuse my ends, I didn't weave them in yet. We just worked that edging around the edge of our strap, down around the front top of the purse, up around that flap, around our buttonhole, back down the flap and around to where we started. So now we're going to flip our bag over to the other side, and I'm going to come over here to where we started that border. So where you fastened off that yarn is where I'm going to go ahead and join my edging color. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and tie my edging color around my hook and just tie a double knot. And we're just going to come over here where we started that edging of our border. I'm going to insert my hook into that same stitch. So let me zoom up a little. Now it's going to be a little tight because I have that knot tied there. And I'm just going to pull my color through. And then I'm going to pull it through the loop on my hook. And this knots it and secures it so this bag will not come apart. And now we're just going to do our repeat pattern around. Now this side will be easier because your stitches are already there. There's no need to go in row end stitches. We're just working in each stitch around. So we're going to go ahead and begin. You're going to chain one. You're going to insert your hook into the next stitch. You're going right underneath the top 2 loops of that stitch, and you're going to slip stitch. Yarn over the hook, pull it through that stitch, and pull it through the loop on your hook. That is your repeat. That's how simple it is. You're going to chain one, insert your hook under the top 2 strands of that next stitch, and slip stitch. Yarn over the hook, pull it through that stitch, and pull it through the loop on your hook. You're just going to repeat that all the way around this side edge of your strap. Chain one, insert under the top 2 strands of the next stitch, and slip stitch. That is the end of the repeat. I'll show you 2 more times. Chain one, insert into the top of the next stitch, and slip stitch. Chain one, insert into the top of the next stitch, and slip stitch. Go ahead and repeat that around. You're going to chain one and then slip stitch into the next stitch. Chain one, slip stitch into the next stitch. Repeat that around, and I will meet you here when you work your last slip stitch. I'm back. I just finished working around. We worked that chain one, slip stitch in each stitch around that outside edging of our bag, and now we're back to where we started. So let me just zoom up, and we're going to join. We're going to end this round by chaining one, and then you're going to come over and insert your hook right where you pulled that new yarn through to start. Insert right in that same space and slip stitch. Yarn over the hook, pull it through that stitch, and pull it through the loop on your hook. I'm going to go ahead and fasten off, and again leave a nice length of at least 6 inches so you can weave that onto your yarn needle and have plenty of room to work that end in on the back of your work. I chain 2, I pull my hook out, I grab that yarn, take my 2 fingers, pull down, and it creates a nice secure knot. So let me just show you the bag. And that is what it looks like so far. So I'm going to go ahead and weave these ends in. I'm going to come back. We're going to take our flap, line it up on the front center of the purse, and then we're going to sew our button to the top, and then your bag is finished. So let me go ahead and weave in all my ends. I got to grab my button, and I'll be back and we'll finish this bag. I'm back and I'm getting ready to sew a button on. Now this time I'm going to go with a really big button. I found this pack of buttons in my stash of stuff and this is Crafting with Buttons. They didn't have a bright blue, so I thought this bright yellow would look really good because I have yellow in my bag. So let me measure this button. This button measures about 1 1/4 inches. So a nice size button. And then what I do is I thread my yarn on my yarn needle, but I double it. And then what I do is I tie a knot in the end and I leave about a 5-inch length. And I do that because when I'm done, I like to tie these ends together to finish off my work. So I'm going to grab my yarn, and what you want to do is take your bag, put your button where you think it belongs, take your flap and bring it down. My button needs moved up. I move it up here, and then I'm going to get ready to sew. You just want to make sure that's lined up. The other thing you want to make sure is you're not sewing through both thicknesses, or what will happen is you will sew your bag together and won't be able to open it. And I'm just going to bring it up in any hole. I'm going to pull it up, but I'm not going to pull my yarn tight. I'm going to go down catty corner into the next hole. I'm going to bring it to the back, and what I like to do is right before that tightens up where my knot is, I'll take my needle between the strands of yarn, and this secures it with a knot. So that button is not going to go anywhere. And then what I do is I just come up again in the hole that I did not work, and I'm going to sew that button. And then I'm sewing the button. Now I only had to do that once because I used double strands of yarn. I'm going to pull it over on the back, and now I'm just going to tie a double knot. I'm going to fasten off my ends. I'm going to come back with my yarn needle and weave these ends in so you can't see them, and then I'll come back and show you the bag. I'm back, and this is what our bag should look like. It should be all finished. Now mine's already stuffed with yarn and I'm ready to go. Now I know this is a beach bag, but this can hold your yarn if you have a little zipper pouch that you can put your hooks and scissors in so they don't come out through the holes. Then that might be a nice little bag for your smaller project bags. So this is the blue one. Now this is called the Sunshine and Rainbow Beach Tote or Market Bag. Now I use the blue, so I'm calling this one my Sky and Rainbow bag. And then I showed you the first one, and this is called the Sunshine and Rainbow because I used the yellow for the sunshine, and all these beautiful multicolors is the rainbow. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. This was part 2. If you didn't see part 1, I'll have the link for part 1 in the description box. So just scroll down until you find that description box. I'll have the links to part 1 of the tutorial so you can make the bag from start to finish. Again, this is pattern number 606. It is the Sunshine and Rainbow Beach Tote or Market Bag, and I'll have that link to the pattern in the description box as well. Thank you everyone for stopping by and crocheting with me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. It's a useful project, and that's some of the things I like to make, things that you can use every day and really get a lot of use out of, or items that you can sell at the craft shows if you're one of those crafters who try to do the craft show runs. So until next time, happy crocheting everyone!